Hello and welcome everyone. I am your host Stefan Burns, geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, cosmic bro, and we just had a big solar storm launched from the sun. Here we're looking at our COR2 view, which is from our probe ahead of Earth in Earth's orbit looking at the sun. And so when you see it launch off like this, that means it's going right to Earth. And so we are going to discuss the upcoming solar storms because it's not just this one that launched today from a 7.1 M-class flare. It is also a solar storm that launched earlier, I believe, from a 4.1 M-class flare. We'll check that out. We'll also just examine some of the geophysical energies that are active on the planet right now. We have our radiation belts fully charged. And we've had some interesting earthquake activity. A magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck off the coast of Japan in an area that has been very active, looking more and more like foreshock activity for something big. Not guaranteed, but certainly an area worth watching closely. That magnitude 6.0 earthquake occurring something like 30-40 minutes right after this 7.1 M-class flare on the sun. And if you look through the historic record across the past decade, 15 years, big earthquakes on Japan often line up with big solar flares on the sun, like very close in time or exactly. It's very interesting. So that happened today. And then we will do a viewer question and answer, a New Year's Eve viewer question and answer. And for some of you, a New Year's Day, welcome to 2026 for a lot of you. And if you're watching this on replay, it's probably 2026 already. And then we'll do a cosmic connection meditation to usher in the new year with some good energy, because that's just something that we should do. So let us do that. A quick announcement before we get into it, because a lot of you have been waiting on this, is that we now have festivity back in stock on the website. This is earthevolution.com/store. We sell a whole bunch of holistic wellness products here, all organic herbal tea blends, merchandise for the store. For example, Boom Shakalaka t-shirts, the Universe Within, or the Cosmos Within, the Interstellar 3-Eye Atlas shirt. But our festivity blend is down here. This is our latest herbal tea blend, and it's 6 ounces per bag. Super good stuff. All organic except the cherries and the apples, because it's just simply not really possible to find those organic at a reasonable price. But they're completely unsulfured, no sugar added, no additives, nothing. And this is a great mold tea. So I'm actually going to have some during the viewer question and answer. It's super tasty. It's by far the tastiest tea blend that we have. We were waiting on ingredients to get back in stock. They're back in stock, so it's now available. It's apple, cherry, burdock root as the main ingredients, burdock root being super good for you. Then also chamomile, licorice root, so it's super tasty, calming, very pleasing. And then a spice blend of allspice, cinnamon bark, anise seed, and then also clove. So it ushers in the holiday spirit unlike anything else that we have. And right now we still have a 5% off coupon code for 2025 going to end of the year. So it's only active for I think another 6.5 hours or so right now as I'm doing this live. But this has been out of stock for almost a month because it sold out so quickly last time. We had some supply issues. So if you want to get it, if you've been waiting, you want to have some brilliant mold tea, then you can pick this up now at earthevolution.com/store. And you can take that brewed remainder. So all this stuff is super good for you. You can take this once it's done and cool down. You can blend it to a pulp and mix it into like a cake mix, and it just immediately makes any cake that you make so good. Like you take a yellow cake mix, for example, and you blend that in, it adds so much flavor. So you can drink it and eat it too, and you could also make a mulled wine with that. You could take just this tea blend and make a mulled wine with it. So it's a really incredible tea blend with multiple purposes, great for parties and more, and that is available at earthevolution.com/store. Let's check out this 7.1 M-class flare that occurred today on the sun. We see it right there from the sunspot group. Quite a big solar flare launching a significant coronal mass ejection out into space. We don't see the coronal mass ejection too well with our 131 angstrom view, but it definitely was a big explosion, as we can see with our halo CME view right here. So check out the shock wave on that. So this is like differential imagery made up of our 211 angstrom, 093, 0193, and 171. And you see that propagate out like this. Most of the plasma is going off to the left in this view, or that'd be to the east solar coordinate system. But it does appear that there's a good portion headed towards Earth direct. And so it looks like we actually have a pretty good hit coming in. We saw that very clearly with our view here from the side from stereo A. It looks like we got a pretty good shot coming in. If we look at our CCOR1 view, this is direct on to the sun. We see that again, most of the plasma there going off a bit to the north and to the east solar coordinate system, but we do get a partial full halo. So you do get that shock wave going out all directions, meaning some is headed towards us. And as a result, what you have to keep in mind here is that anything going off to the side, it's going to look denser because there's like this stacking that occurs of it. It's a side angle profile. So you're looking through the density of that entire column. Whereas the plasma that launches out directly towards us with that full halo shock wave, it gets spread out. So it's not showing up as dense as this is, but it's actually quite significant of a punch headed our way. And so if we look at our space weather model by NOAA, we can see that they show this. This is the first solar storm that's headed inbound, like right now. But we see that there's two zones of high density that launched there. So see that first one and then that second one. So if you look at this first glance without really examining it, you think, okay, this isn't going to really do too much. It's not going to hit us too hard. And it's not going to be like a G5 storm that we get, you know, an extreme geomagnetic storm. But they are showing like a good high density blob of plasma hitting Earth, both along the equatorial plane and also, you know, right here. So we see that coming in. It's pretty high density. Look at the spike there, going up to nearly 50 particles per cubic centimeter. And we also see that the velocity spikes up, going from roughly 400, a little bit under 400 kilometers per second, according to this model, up to 625, 650 kilometers per second or so. So NOAA is showing a pretty big impact from this. And I think the reason why this model shows the way it does is because of this side angle there. I think they looked at this and they're like, okay, this is a big one. Whereas if you were just to look at this CCOR1 and you don't take into account like how the plasma density stacks from that side profile, you're going to think, it's probably nothing's really going to happen. And we don't know. So we, at the end of the day, really don't know how this impact is going to shake out. I'm more inclined to align with this because in general, if you look at these solar storm forecasts, more often than not, they come in stronger than expected rather than like not coming in at all. Or sometimes there's a forecast that's put out and then some people, there's some questions as to whether it's going to hit or not. And then the expected time here, January 3rd, very beginning universal time, the expected time doesn't materialize. 24 hours later, everyone's like, oh, see, nothing ever happens. And then it was just delayed. It was much slower than expected. And then 12, 24, 18, 32 hours later, it hits. So keep that in mind too. I think it's a little bit less likely actually that it gets super delayed. I think if anything, it may come in a little early because we had this first solar storm that was launched off there from that smaller M-class flare. It was like a triple solar flare sequence. I talked about that. I wouldn't be surprised if these two kind of combine to some degree. There is a bit of time in between, so I don't think this 7.1 M-class flare and coronal mass ejection will catch up to this first one, which is just a ghost of a whisper going by, according to their modeling. But I do think it's likely that they're a little bit closer aligned in time than we see here. They don't show really any impact from this one, and it's coming around like the first, and then there's 48 hours in between. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a little bit closer stacked together. And the forecast from NOAA for this is G1 to G2 conditions are possible. A coronal mass ejection is an eruption of solar material and magnetic fields. When they arrive at Earth, a geomagnetic storm can result. Watches of this level are not uncommon. CMEs that left the sun between December 23rd to the 31st are anticipated to affect Earth with elevated geomagnetic response and dependent upon the orientation of the embedded magnetic field. Minor to moderate storming might occur. The effects are mainly manageable to some technological infrastructure. Aurora may become visible over some northern and upper Midwest states from New York to Idaho. Those wishing to see the aurora should visit our webpage for updates, or better yet, subscribe to the channel, because you know your boy, your Cosmic Bro, is going to keep you up to date. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've never let you down. So when something happens, I'm right there on it as quickly as I can, whether it's a live stream or a video update. And it's not just space weather and solar flares, it's also big earthquakes, and it's also severe weather events at times, and geomagnetic storms. And we've been covering 3I Atlas a lot because it's a very unique interstellar object. And actually, I have quite a video, probably 2 videos, to make on 3I Atlas coming up, because there's some really interesting things to discuss there that no one else is talking about, because that I know of, because they just haven't done the research and don't understand some of the dynamics. But I'm here to bring that information forth and see how others run with it, which will be cool. Now, if we go over to our earthquakes, we will see that we've had some activity today, more than they kind of let on, because sometimes like a big earthquake will be colored in red and it'll stay colored in red. This magnitude 6 here kind of slipped through the radar, I feel like. People didn't really realize that this magnitude 6 happened, and well, it did. And this is interesting because this is in a zone of activity for magnitude 6.4, 6.8 earthquakes, and then also a whole bunch of magnitude 5s and 4s and 3s with a swarm, a burst of activity back in November. So this was what I called zone 1, and then zone 2 opened up here. So they were definitely different zones of activity. And let's look through the catalog so you can see what I'm talking about. We'll go back to November, the very first day. So we're going to look at basically the last 2 months of activity, and we'll set this for magnitude 4 and greater. That should do it. And we'll hit search. It's going to be a lot of earthquakes, but let's check it out. We're just going to zone in here, okay? We'll only list the ones on the map. So here are those 2 zones, zone 1, zone 2. If I set this to largest magnitude, you see that we've had a lot of earthquake activity around Japan. We have the 6.4, 6.8 earthquakes right here. So if I click those, you'll see them pop up in cyan, 6.8, there's the 6.4. And if you look at our 7.6, we see that's in zone 2. And then we see our 6.7 aftershock is zone 2, the 6.6 aftershock, that in and of itself is unusual. Typically, you don't get 2 aftershocks of the same magnitude. The typical rule of thumb is if you have a 7.6 earthquake, the aftershock will be a 6.6, let's say, about 1 magnitude less for the aftershock, and you're only going to get 1 of them. I mean, it's not guaranteed every single time it's going to work out like that, but that's typically the rule of thumb. And then often what you'll see is, let's say with this 7.6 earthquake, the aftershocks, instead of maybe getting a 6.6, 6.7, you may get like 3 magnitude 6.2s, something like that. So instead, so that would make sense that you get more of them because they're much less in the energy release. A 6.2 compared to a 6.7 is quite a bit less. But to have 2 big aftershocks of the same magnitude is interesting. So that area is very active, and that could be all she wrote. And it could be all she wrote for this area too, with just this 6.8, 6.4. But then we had the magnitude 6 today. So this area wasn't active really for much of December until, boom, we get our magnitude 6. That's a big earthquake. So we go back here again. Look at all the magnitude 6 earthquakes we've had. We had the 7.6, of course. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 magnitude 6 earthquakes in just 2 months. We also see zone 3 up here. This is not as prolific of an earthquake swarm location for the past couple months, but we look at all the magnitude 5s that popped up. And that's how these other zones started as well. They started off with like low-grade magnitude 5s, and then they bumped up to higher magnitude 6 plus earthquakes. So Japan's been very active. Definitely worth watching closely as we have this historic planetary alignment coming up. One of the biggest planetary alignments of the century. And it's multiple planets in alignment active right now. So that is quite significant. And really the bigger story here is how all of this is converging around this planetary alignment. But the big earthquake for today is this magnitude 6 here. And then don't forget, we also had our sequence, the magnitude 6.6 here in Taiwan. And then as we forecasted, hey, check out the antipodal action. Well, then we had that fairly close to the antipode afterwards with the 6.2. And the interesting thing I want to point out here is that this represents almost exactly half the Earth. It's slightly off the antipode, and the antipode is going to be exactly opposite. So this entire part of the globe is half of the Earth, the Pacific Ocean. So you have the Pacific Ocean and the Pacific Plate, right? This is all the Pacific Plate. Then you have this smaller plate right there. We have the spreading center. Like this is all one plate tectonic system that stretches across half the globe, and we get this antipodal sequence, the two biggest earthquakes of the past week. Very interesting, showing that there's a lot of connections here that if you pay attention, you know, the Earth reveals her secrets to you. It's not that difficult to see these trends over time, but for some reason, they're not really discussed with like mainstream science, but they are quite obvious. Here we see our X-ray flux for that 7.1 flare, and we'll look at our 7-day view. So we see first off, our 7.1 M-class flare today. Here was that like triple solar burst. There's actually multiple M-class flares in that. I think that peaked out at a 4.1, 4.2 it looks like. And then we also had this M-class flare here that was a 5.1. So we've had some significant flares over the past week, none of them reaching X-class levels, but there has been activity. And this latest one is the most significant of them, having launched directly towards us, a pretty significant solar storm. Again, if we give that a look here with our Halo CME, we see that shock wave so nicely propagate out. Again, looks like it's a little bit ahead of the Earth in its orbit, or rather you could say behind. Because the Earth is moving. So we'll say that this is a little behind the Earth in its orbit. And again, our CCR1 shows as well. But if you look at our side angle here, we see that there is also clearly a component coming into the Earth. And that is why NOAA created this space weather model showing two zones of plasma density. The first one being right there and the second one being right there, also lining up with the equatorial plane. Boom shakalaka, there we go. That's coming in January 3rd according to them. So if you're in the United States, that's going to be January 2nd, late afternoon or evening. If you're Hawaii, even earlier. But we'll wait and see. In general, I don't take the time of these forecasts as gospel. I generally look at them as 24 hours on either side. Now, we have the year of the fire horse in terms of Chinese zodiac. And Nick here just dropped an interesting historical lesson here, which is 1906 was a fire horse year. The Great San Francisco earthquake occurred in 1906. And in fact, 1906 was one of the most seismically active years ever on record. We have that data here, which is fantastic. I'm happy. Just look at this. The universe is manifesting it. It was already loaded up, baby. So here is a plot showing global seismic energy release and major earthquakes going from 1900 to 2025. And this is data that I plotted using official USGS earthquake data. And this goes up to like December 13th of 25. So I will update at the end of the year, but that's not really going to change much because you need a big earthquake to really change this graphic from when I created it. because the last big earthquake was the 7.6. But this is 1906 right there. So this is seismic energy release. We're looking at gigawatt hours for this logarithmic scale there. And you see a lot of years that are low, 10 to the 4, that's 10 to the 5, 10 to the 6. All the years with big magnitude 9 earthquakes, they have obviously the highest seismic energy release because of how that scales logarithmically. Every magnitude up is 32 times more energy. So this is 1952, that's the magnitude 9 Kamchatka, 1960, that's the 9.5 in South America, right at the crux of the subduction zone. 1964, magnitude 9.2 Alaska, 2004, magnitude 9 Sumatra, and 2011, magnitude 9.1 Japan. Okay, look at where 1906 is and look at where 2025 is. So 1905 was a wood snake year Chinese zodiac. If you track this stuff, it's just interesting, okay? I'm not saying I 100% believe this, but it's interesting. 1905 was a big year for seismic activity. We had 2 back-to-back magnitude 8s in Mongolia in 1905, a whole bunch of other earthquake activity. As you see, it's one of the higher years, you know, definitely reaching above a lot of the seismic activity for the globe across this past 125 years. Then 1906 was bigger. So maybe we see a similar trend where 2025 was a big year for seismic activity, one of the highest, 1906, and these 5 being the only ones bigger. So this being the 7th strongest year for seismic activity in 125 years. Maybe this goes up even more. We could see a big megaquake out of Japan. I would not be surprised by that. By everything that we've been seeing, it definitely seems likely. And by likely, I mean, I think the normal risk of a megaquake is quite low, right? And to precisely forecast it's difficult. We've done it on the channel. Back in July, I successfully did a megaquake forecast a few months out, saying it was a higher risk, and then 3 days before pointing at Kamchatka, and boom, it happened on July 29th. So that was pretty incredible. If you track what's happening, the point is that if you track what's happening with the globe, and you notice the anomalous earthquake trends, and then you pair that with the longer term rhythms, that gives you a much higher chance of successfully forecasting what's going to occur. I think you need a little bit of intuition, a little bit of a skill. It's an art, right? Add the science in, all the things. But what we've been seeing in Japan is quite significant, and it feels like foreshock activity. It feels like something bigger is coming, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is the official data. And yeah, 1906 was a big year, and that was also a fire horse year. So the year of fire is coming, and we have this solar storm inbound to give us a boom shakalaka right at the beginning of the year. G1, G2 conditions expected. I actually, because I think the storms may catch up to each other, would not be surprised if we see G3 levels, at least maybe just briefly, but we'll have to wait and see. So what is this planetary alignment? Let us look at this before I move on to the question and answer, and then we'll do the cosmic connection meditation at the end. But let us check out our solar system scope, which is an application which allows us to see the relative position of the planets in the solar system. Here it is. We've been talking about this for quite a while now. Today's December 31st where I am, and we see that they are nearly in alignment already, okay? And it's not just Mars and Venus here and the Earth, it's also Jupiter. So we have this full alignment that's forming at this moment in time. Now this Mars-Venus conjunction, this is a regular synodic cycle of these 2 planets on the other side of the Sun, every 2,338 days or so on average. So that's 6.6 years. They meet up in this conjunction. Sometimes it's not as exact with the Sun. It's more like offline over here, and then they do their cazimis. This year, it's very, very exact, where they are doing their conjunctions with each other and their solar cazimis at the same time. And then you'll notice Mercury there following up after with its cazimi also in January. So not exactly at the same time as this, but just like a week or 2 later. So we have that. It's already a significant synodic cycle. Then we also have this Jupiter opposition, meaning it's on the other side of the Earth. This is when Jupiter will be the brightest in the sky for us here on Earth. and it's the closest to the Earth that it gets. Because when it's all the way on the other side of its orbit, well, you know, it's pretty far away. So this is the closest that we get to Jupiter every single year. And that is on January 10th. That's the closest opposition date. And then we also have our own perihelion to the sun for Earth on January 3rd. So we're the closest to the sun on January 3rd in our orbit, which varies from about 0.985 astronomical units to about 1.01. So Earth's orbit's not a perfect circle, though it is close. So we're at our closest to the sun on January 3rd. So that solar storm is going to reach us a little bit faster as a result of that as well. Keep that in mind. January 3rd is when it's expected to come in. We're going to be at our closest. So you have these enhanced alignments with the planets, maybe gravitational effects, electromagnetic effects. I think it even goes beyond that. I think we're talking about more morphic resonance vibration effects in ways that we don't fully understand or can scientifically quantify at this moment in time. So if you limit yourself just to gravity or electromagnetism when looking at these planetary alignments, I don't think you're going to fully understand it or be able to forecast perhaps some possibilities of what could occur, because we don't have it all figured out. So you have to go just more into a frequency, vibration, resonance understanding a la Nikola Tesla, right? This guy was plugged in for sure. Now the other thing, and this is why I think this is more significant than just this alignment, is that we also have this great conjunction happening at the same time. So Saturn and Neptune conjunct in the sky. This occurs once every 36 years approximately, and so that's adding into this. And in addition to that, we have Pluto and Uranus in these 60-degree harmonic aspects to Neptune and Saturn. So that means they're 120-degree harmonics. And if you read the work of J.H. Nelson, his book Cosmic Patterns, and I think he has some other research papers out there, he used planetary geometry to forecast solar activity and geomagnetic disturbances. And it's when you get a combination of hard aspects with these harmonic ones that you see increases in solar activity. We already have a solar storm inbound for January 3rd, and that's also the full moon. So if we go, well, this app is starting to bug out, but you'll notice right here that we have the moon opposite the sun. So our full moon is around January 3rd as well. So a lot happening beginning of January, even before those alignments go exact, and they go exact January 6th, January 7th, January 8th, January 9th. We can in fact even see Mars and Venus in our chronograph imagery at this moment in time. Let me show you this. This is pretty cool. And here we go. So here we have our C3 chronograph, which is a wide view, 32 solar radii across. There's our big coronal mass ejection that launched out today. There's Venus, and there is Mars. So this is not a background star. You see that it's moving slower than the rest of the background sky. Sun is fixed. The sun's denoted by that circle. We put a disk over it so we can block out, see what's happening with the solar wind, solar storms. There's that solar storm launch. But they are going to go conjunct together right about here after Venus does her cazimi, her solar conjunction, and then Mars will do its solar conjunction as well as they continue to move like this faster than Mars. So that's all happening in just a week's time. And we have this solar storm coming in before that. We've had this earthquake activity in Japan that is, it's definitely worth watching. I don't want to say it's troubling. Troubling might be too strong of a word, but it definitely is worth watching closely. We've also had some activity here in California, worth pointing out, is that we have this 4.9 magnitude earthquake that struck near Susanville, and also 4.7. So these are some of the biggest earthquakes that California has had for some months now, way up here in northeastern California. But those are some big earthquakes, and also a magnitude 5 here near where we had the magnitude 6.8 Hubbard Glacier earthquake, which originally came as a magnitude 7. So yes, lots of activity right now. I hope that everything works out, but just in general, I think this energy is going to express itself in a pretty strong way. But I don't know if it's going to be a space weather expression, whether it's going to be an Earth geophysical, geologic expression with a volcanic eruption or a big earthquake. It could be a societal expression. That's how these, once you start to talk about the morphic resonance energy field, all these things are the same at that level. So whether it expresses itself through the Earth or through maybe some human societal event, I don't know. But if you study this stuff, you see that it works out time and time again. So I think it's also just recently I've been feeling a lot of amazing, very lightening and inspirational energy. So these things aren't necessarily bad. They can be quite amazing actually. So just be aware of that. But I do think that we have something in store for the next 2 weeks. And I don't know what it is, but if I had to choose, I would probably lean on an earthquake, but it's hard to say. But I would lean on an earthquake. Planetary geometry and earthquakes are also closely linked up. I've done a lot of study and analysis and sharing of that information on my channel. You can also check out Frank Hugerbeets with SSGEOS, and he's done a tremendous amount of research and presentation on planetary alignments and significant earthquakes, and it's very compelling. So we have a lot happening. Here's our sun right now, sunspot view, our intensitygram. We see that this sunspot cluster there is Earth direct and center right now. It has been growing a lot recently. The biggest sunspots now on the disk, though we've been getting our activity from this sunspot cluster, which gave us a lot of activity a month ago. And so the next 2-3 days, we could get a lot launched towards us. This is probably just an appetizer, a warm-up for what's to come. That's kind of my thought process, but we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get X flares in the next few days. It's certainly a high probability based off the alignment where they are, the recent growth of this guy, the planetary alignment, and so much more. So that is your space weather and Earth geophysical update for the beginning of 2026. Happy New Year's, everyone, and going into this historic planetary alignment. We'll now do a question and answer. So if you have a question, then please ask it in the chat. I'll do my best to answer all the questions. I will answer them from all the super thanks questions. So if you have a question that you want answered, then attach it to a super thanks. I have a side list that populates, so I can guaranteed see all those. But I will take some from the regular audience first. That way it's, there's a chance and a level of fairness for everybody. So start asking your questions. I'm going to pour my tea. Look at the color on the festivity. It's amazing. It's so good. Again, earthevolution.com/store to check out all the holistic wellness products that we have. All of this available United States only at this moment in time. But I think health and wellness is just as important as all this other stuff. So that's why I have the Earth Evolution website. And Noetic is asking, are you talking about Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance? Yeah, I think he has a good framework of understanding of this. And so that's a good starting place. It gets more complex than that, but it explains a lot of things. And there's now starting to be more and more science supporting that as well. So yeah, I mean, if you just want to really summarize it easily, then yeah, his idea and theory of that, or hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, is a great starting place to understand this. And Mommy's asking, any chance Yellowstone supervolcano could wake up? Well, we did have a magnitude 2.8 earthquake, I believe, today at Yellowstone. So it was a 2.6, which is not the biggest earthquake that Yellowstone has ever had by far, or even this year. I think the largest this year is like a 3.8, a 3.7. But we're not seeing signs at Yellowstone that's like imminently about to blow, anything like that. We're going to see preliminary earthquakes. We're going to see big increases of emissions and gas and such before something happens, because you need that magma to move up, to depressurize. And there are going to be warning signs for that. So your question though is there a chance it could wake up? Absolutely. It's still a supervolcano. It's still being fed. Like when that's going to happen though, it could be 50 years from now. It could be 2 years from now. It could be like 300,000 years from now. There's no way to know when it's going to, but once we start seeing signs, then it'll be easier to understand the progression perhaps. And if I start seeing signs at Yellowstone, I'll let you know. I don't make videos on Yellowstone every day, like I'm sure maybe some people do, you know, the Yellowstone Doom channel or something, because there's nothing really to report there. But when there's notable activity, I report it. There was a big like steam explosion, I think last year, but you get those occasionally. That's not out of the norm. So the volcanoes to watch are Campi Flegrei in Italy. Right now, Mount Etna. We're still having activity in Kamchatka with, for example, we had just a new lava flow with Krashenikov volcano, which was inactive for 600 years until the megaquake 8.8 hit in July, and then it became active. So there's other volcanoes which I'm looking at much more closely because they are showing activity that looks like it's maybe building up to something. Selena's asking, is there a comet close to Venus and could it have an interaction during the Cazimis? I don't believe there are any comets close to Venus. I mean, I guess one of the closest ones would be 3I Atlas, though it's not terribly close at this point, but we can just give it a look really quick. Today is the 31st of December, so let's get this loaded up. And actually, no, it's not that close to Venus. Yeah, a lot of the comets have started to move away from the solar system now. So while in the grand scheme, 3I Atlas is close to Venus and Mars, it's actually much closer to Earth at this moment in time. And there's no real big comet activity right now. That was earlier in the year, though there could be some there that we haven't found yet, right? You at some point you just find them. But as of right now, I can't definitively say that. So, and Wanasong is saying Cascadia is more probable than Yellowstone. Yeah, we had that big earthquake swarm with Mount Rainier earlier this year. That was also in July. That was like 1,000+ earthquakes and bigger than the prior earthquake swarm, which is only like 100, 150. So that was certainly significant and makes you want to watch that area more closely. And what we saw with the magnitude 8.8 megaquake is that all of a sudden Kamchatka became very active with volcanoes. It already is, but all of a sudden became very, very active. And so if we were to have, let's say, a megaquake in the Cascadia subduction zone, which the last time a big one occurred was the year 1900, well, then that is something that could happen, is that big earthquake could set off perhaps some of the volcanoes in Cascadia. There has been activity, this background earthquake activity with some of the others, like Mount Hood and a little bit with like Mount St. Helens, I guess, Shasta, but really it's Mount Rainier that really showed the most activity by far. And you have to be careful because there's a lot of AI channels now that just make a new video every single day saying like Mount Hood's about to explode or something, and they target every single volcano. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you think it's significant. They have no problem lying about this stuff. So yeah, there has been an increase, an uptick in activity for sure with Mount Rainier. But if you were to have a big magnitude 8.5 or even magnitude 8, 8.5, 9 along Cascadia, then you could start to see these wake up, because that's what we just saw this year. And I think that's the dynamic, that big seismic wave interacting with magma systems, causing depressurization, fractures, and then that could be the first domino, pulling the trigger on the gun, the first domino creating the chain reaction that leads to the eruption. So not guaranteed if that does occur, but these are dynamics that do at times happen. The Earth is much more interconnected than most people think. So we're going to go through our super thanks questions now and also some super stickers. So thank you because we can for the super sticker. That's very generous of you. And I want to load up our view of the sun here, make it a little bit more fun. And also Rock On, thank you for the super sticker as well. So Rock On because we can. And Sonora, Happy New Year, peace and happiness to you all. Thank you for that message, and I repeat that to everybody. Sandra, thank you for the super sticker. And Rotten Dog, another tea for you, immunity. We do have some tea blends that are good for your immune system, specifically fruit tea is already basically the immunity, but that is a good idea to make one specific for your immune system. Because fruit tea isn't specific for that, though it does help. So thank you for that suggestion. And for the very generous super thanks here from Chaga, thank you so much for that. That's 149 Canadian, so thank you so much. That's really appreciated. Happy New Year's to you, and much love, abundance, and God bless. Artem is just collect the best herbs from your area. Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, I do a lot of herbalism. I pick herbs where I am. So once you learn this stuff, if you know, then you can start to harvest herbs in your area, and that's really a good thing to do, especially if you're out in the wilderness. You know it's totally biodynamic, and it's from land that has all the synergistic living soil to it, where you can have like organic farming operations, but it's still monocrop, let's say. So if you can wild forage it in an area that you know is clean, pristine nature, that's really good stuff. So thank you so much. And Emily, thank you for the super thanks. I'm in New Zealand. Should I avoid the Alpine fault this month? Well, it's kind of a low probability in general that that's going to rupture. It has about a 300-year recurrence interval, and the last big eruption of the Alpine fault in New Zealand was 1717. So it is 2026 now. So yeah, it's like 313 years, and the recurrence interval is 300 years or so. But that's an average. Sometimes it's 250, sometimes it's 350. So every single day or every month is a low probability it's going to rupture, but based off of the geologic record, it's almost guaranteed to rupture in the next 50 years. So then if you look at that time frame, it's almost a surefire thing. So, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. I wouldn't live your life in fear, but just be aware, be prepared. And if you're out in nature and like hiking or something and there's a big earthquake, you'll probably be fine, unless you're like right on a cliff or something. It's more likely if you're in a home and there's a big earthquake and the building collapses or something that you have a problem. So I wouldn't live your life afraid of the Alpine fault going. If it goes, then you're meant to experience that. So hope that helps. Thanks for your super thanks. Nick, thank you as well. And we addressed this earlier, so thanks for that suggestion. And how distorted are our maps in terms of proportions? It depends on what projection you're using. So there's like a Mercator projection. Of course, you have 3D globes, so that's the most accurate using like Google Earth. So yeah, that's important to keep in mind. Some projections are more distorted than others, and it depends on whether it's higher latitudes or how they're done. But in general, that's why I try to look at 3D visualizations, because they're not going to have those issues. Alexandra, thank you for the super thanks. Much appreciated. And Crystalline, thank you for the super thanks. Can you talk about the electromagnetic background level on the Tomsk-Schumann? I've heard the line of green on the bottom is an anomaly. Okay, let's see what you're talking about, because I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, but we can load it up. I have it right here. So again, I'm gonna have to close your, well, actually I can do this. So there we go. So everyone can see that now. Okay, the line on the line of green on the bottom is an anomaly. Well, I'm not seeing a line of green on the bottom. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about this one, then yes, that's a 20 hertz signal that's due to the power grid of Russia that runs at 50 hertz, and it creates these 10 hertz harmonics. And what happens is you have the normal Schumann resonance at 20 hertz, which is increasing the power level of that frequency in general, and then you add on that power grid harmonic, and so it shows up as this green line. Whereas you don't have that, constructive interference and amplification at 10 hertz. So if you did, you get a line at 10 hertz. You kind of see it there, but not really. But this is mode 1, the Schumann resonance, 7.8 hertz, mode 2, 14 hertz, mode 3, 20 hertz, mode 4, 26 hertz, mode 5, 33, mode 6 is 39 hertz. They apply a filter to 32 hertz and above, making it hard to see those modes because they reduce the gain by like 15 decibels or so. But you see modes 1 through 4 very clearly with our data out of Tomsk, Russia. And as of right now, there's really nothing too crazy there. We do see some activity there. At about 24.5 hertz, but we've seen that before. It's not a clear pre-earthquake signal because I think this is more of like a local power artifact, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. A little bit of an interesting burst right here. You see that across the different modes, right? So that's interesting. I don't know what that is, but either way, nothing really too crazy on the Schumann right now, or else I would make a video on it, right? When we had that last anomalous pre-earthquake burst on it, then we had the 6.5 in Papua New Guinea. So like we use this when they pop up, it's usually a sign that there's a big earthquake coming. And from Jellerman 55, since most coronal mass ejection energy seems to hit the Eastern Pacific Rim, I'm hoping that they will not be affecting the New Madrid fault. What do you think? Yeah, we don't know when that's going to pop off. At some point it will, but it's kind of an unknown. You know, 1811, 1812 was big for New Madrid, but there hasn't been any signs that, as far as I know, that it's about to go. And if that happens, right, if we start to get warning signs, I'll let you know. But I'm much more concerned about like Japan, New Zealand, California, than I am New Madrid at this moment in time. Thank you for the super thanks, Turtle2, and also Original Dale Limited. Thank you for the very generous super sticker. Wishing you and all yours the best in 2026. And that goes for everyone here in the live stream. Thank you all for being here. Happy New Year's. Mary Jane is now a member. Welcome, Mary Jane. Nomadic wants to say thank you for the hard work. Well, thank you for your support. It's much appreciated. Couldn't do this all without you, of course. And Nimbus, remembering back to a prior live stream. Yes, so slurp a shakalaka. Deaky, the Traveler, with a very generous super thanks. Wow, that is very incredible. We just moved to Anchorage, Alaska from SoCal and cannot wait to be welcomed by 2026 with intense aurora as we welcome it with fireworks. An introduction of dancing lights. Was in Fairbanks for the G4 storm in November and knew because you notified us. Big fan of yours from Alaska, Dana and Peter. Well, thank you so much for the very generous super thanks and for the kind words. And yeah, I was even hoping to fly there to catch that. And it's a good thing I didn't because it didn't work out. It wouldn't have worked out for me. But that was a pretty nice storm that you guys saw there. I'm sure it was amazing. So. Excited for you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful time in Alaska. And yeah, you're going to have a nice light show with the solar storms coming in, perhaps with some more. We could get a lot more activity from either of these groups. I think it's likely in the next few days that at least we get more M flares, if not even an X flare or two. We'll see, but I think it's likely. So keep that in mind too. Get your cameras ready and have some fun with it. Painless Health Podcast. Thank you so much for the very generous super sticker of $99. That's much appreciated. Happy New Year and much abundance and love to you. God bless. And Victoria, thank you. A longtime viewer. Thank you for the super sticker. That's much appreciated and wishing you well. Jody, the planetary alignments between January 6th and 9th may bring some strong energies to Earth. Are there any that will be subtle? Yeah, I think we often sometimes see with planetary alignments enhances in dreaming. At least I have that experience, and I'm sure tons of people in the chat and comments for the video can attest to that. So that's a pretty subtle thing, but if it causes a big life shift, it's not. But that's in a more higher dimensional, subtle vibration energy realm. Also, just in general, I often notice behavioral changes with people during planetary alignments. The more aware of these things you are, the less it affects you like that. But if you're not really aware of this stuff, then you may be like, why is this person acting all cuckoo right now? It's like, well, they're not really aware of the fact that they have this thing happening. And especially you see that with like full moons, the full moon effect. A lot of people are in resonance with this unconsciously. because it takes consciousness to then say, okay, I want to be in resonance or I don't want to be in resonance. And you can stay in resonance with, let's say, the lunar cycle and feel that full moon energy, but not go cuckoo. Maybe you channel it towards painting a mandala or doing something creative, something like that. But if not, often, because we're social animals, much more so than most animals on the planet, it often comes out socially, behaviorally, psychologically. So I'm no by like the end-all be-all expert on this, but I've lived a few years on this planet and I have some direct experience and observations I can share. So just because we may not have scientific studies on this, and we do have some, doesn't mean that there's not an effect. It's just more so an ignorance on our part to better quantify this in maybe a more scientifically rigorous way, though the science of astrology is the oldest. Astronomy used to be one and the same, and it goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's only just in the past couple hundred years that there has been this division and this split, and the astronomical group saying, you guys are all stupid and dumb, whereas the astrological community is just more open to ideas and energy in general, and they're not being so judgmental. So, take that for what you want, because the group that's being super attacky and judgmental, like, I don't know, that's not good karma. It's not really a high consciousness mindset. So it tells you a lot. That's a little off topic. Thank you for the gift of all of the memberships, Jackal. That's very appreciated. And thank you for everything you do. Happy New Year. High vibes. AZ, thank you so much. That is awesome. Some new members, Because We Can. Thank you as well for that. Suzanne, Happy New Year, Stefan. Question, does our moon have the same rotational orbit in the same plane as Earth, or does it have its own orbit in a separate plane? It does have its own orbit in a separate plane. It's about 5.15 degrees tilted to the Earth. So I can probably show that really quick. I think I have this graphic. Well, I definitely do have this graphic somewhere here. So let me load this up for you. Yeah, this should do it. The moon introduction graphic. Or, yeah, we'll do this one. Okay. So here's our kind of graphic showing some basic information on the moon. I'm going to turn myself off. But you notice there on the right side, we see the Earth, we see its tilt axis, 23.44 degrees. You see the ecliptic plane, and then you also see the lunar orbital plane, which is 5.14 degrees inclined from the ecliptic plane. So that is why we get eclipses, not every single month, because it needs to line up with the nodes. If we had the moon exactly on the ecliptic plane, we get eclipses every single month with the new moon, full moon. But we don't. It has to line up specifically. That's why we only get them twice a year. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And thank you for your super thanks. And from Matthew, I'm assuming, the only place that is safe is self-awareness, generating love and compassion, enjoying your connection with shifting natural EMF to adapt and not to be controlled by the EMF technologies. No fear of change and acceptance of the now. Yes. I used to talk a lot about electromagnetic fields on my channel earlier on, and I still do, of course. This is all EMFs. But I was making a lot of videos specifically on like your Wi-Fi, how that affects you, 5G and more. And all that stuff you want to be very mindful of. But I think the worst thing is fear. So living in fear of this stuff is not what you want. So it's good to be aware of all these high energy electromagnetic fields that now exist in our society, from power grids, Wi-Fi, smart devices, smart meters, 5G, 4G, all the things, right? If you're using your phone, use it and then put it in airplane mode. Never walk around with your phone on your chest pocket with all the antennas on. That's like a surefire way to make your heart just be like, bro, are you alive? Like, is anyone home? Because it's terrible for your heart. And that's the generation of your main biofield. So it's really bad to do. Even in your pocket, it's right next to your genitals, so that's not good. Guy or female, not going to be good for you. So put your phone in airplane mode, but it's also going to be worse if you're constantly freaking out about it. So be aware of this stuff, do the things, turn your Wi-Fi off at night, have a grounding set up, make sure you're doing earthing grounding, but then, or even move to a lower EMF place like the rural areas, for example. Don't live in the city if you don't want that. But don't be constantly fearful or worried of it, or else it's going to be worse. If you focus on your problems, it makes them worse. So thank you for the super thanks there. And to wrap up, we have some memberships that were gifted. So thank you so much for that. So with that said, we are now going to move on to our cosmic connection meditation. And yeah, I recognize that people can't just move overnight, but if you make plans, if it's important to you, then you go ahead and you do it. So, you know, we all have choices and decisions to make in life, and fundamentally it's all due back down to like self-responsibility. But yeah, I mean, my apartment right now, I have like some transmission lines right outside my bedroom. I'm not a fan. I want to move here, but it's taken. I applied to this apartment, then it didn't work out because the universe said no, not yet. So you do what you can, but you just don't freak out about it. But you also do what you can. That's kind of my philosophy. So we are going to do a cosmic connection meditation. We have some of our moderators here. Soul Healing with Bree will be joining us. She's plugged into these energies all day. That's awesome. Glad to see you here, Bree. And with that, get a comfortable position and we will get started. Yeah, so to begin, find a comfortable position, and the goal really for today is to bring in new energy for the new year and to set intentions. What we focus on is where our energy goes, where our attention is focused. Then as a result, manifest the life that you want in your reality. And this is very true. So life will throw things at you, which is obviously an influence over what's going to happen, but you have your sovereign divine right to also choose where you send your attention, your focus, your energy, your love. So that is the stronger force here, I would say. And as a result, allows you to overcome everything and build the life that you want. So this is a great way to reprogram perhaps your mind, and a lot of that has to do with just releasing kind of chaotic, jittery, buzzing energy that may just keep you in a loop. And you got to trust the process. You got to trust it and you got to let go. So that's what we're going to do, starting with our crown chakra singing bowl. Then we also have our third eye chakra crystal bowl here. And we also have our root chakra bowl right here. So let us begin, and we are going to work our way up. So we are going to start with the root chakra, cleanse and purify, and then we will go higher. We want nice, long, gentle breaths. Your breathing resonance determines many of your bioresonances and the strength of your heart biofield and much more. So there is a science, a spiritual science that exists here. And we access the wisdom of the ancients, the masters who've come before us, Mother Earth, Father Sun, all the planets in the solar system, all the planets in a harmonic alignment right now. Every single one. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, all of them in a harmonic alignment here to support us energetically, consciously. Interstellar Atlas nearby, giving us new, unique information and consciousness from a different part of our galaxy. Gamma ray bursts hitting our heliosphere from billions of light years away. Know that you are protected. You are being guided. Have faith. All is as it is meant to be, and all will work out as it's meant to. Sometimes we need to go through the dark night of the soul to really have it impressed upon us what it is that we need to do or want, or the direction we need to go. And without that dark night, we wouldn't appreciate the sunrise. So now with faith, we visualize what it is that we desire, what we're working towards. It's all just a frequency away. You want to hold it in your third eye right here. Breathe. Visualize your success, your inspiration, positive impact on the world, your health and wellness, loving friends and family, peace, love, prosperity. By visualizing with our pineal gland, the third eye, we imprint this frequency into our heart field, which then radiates out not only to those around us and to the earth, but to the entire universe, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. That signal radiates out at the speed of light in all directions, and God can hear even the quietest whisper. That's why you need faith to trust. Take what it is that you're visualizing and go beyond. Think bigger. Take the next step. If you don't know the next step, then allow the universe to deliver the inspiration to you. Open your crown chakra. Open up to the energy of the cosmos, the earth, the sun, the planets in alignment. It is happening now. Once in a century event is happening right now. contact with the full moon right before the planetary alignment. A burst of energy and consciousness for us to utilize to trigger even more significant paradigm shifts in our lives, in the lives of others, and for the world and universe at large. Can you feel it? Just as you should be breathing into new parts of your body, expand your consciousness to new parts of the cosmos. Expand and receive. Come pure gifts of light from God. Search your heart. A better place for us to heal and to simply live a life of peace and inspiration and community and unconditional love. So thank you all for being here. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. I'm wishing each and every single one of you well. Happy New Year's. Welcome to 2026. It's been a fantastic year. I have so much gratitude and appreciation for all of you who've joined the channel since then. The channel's nearly quintupled in size since the beginning of 2025. So it's been a wild ride, folks, and 2026 is going to be even better. So super excited to see you all grow along with me, for us to grow together. And yeah. We'll keep doing it. We'll keep being real here, and I love that for all of us, because the world's becoming increasingly more real, but there's a lot out there that's not. So we anchor in those energies here on the channel. Thank you all so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. Have a great 2026. I wish you the best, the most abundant blessings with that, and I'll see you all very soon.